discussion regarding 2015 Emergency Solutions grant application. Kate?
Good morning. The Cumberland County is preparing an application to the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development for the 2015 Emergency Solutions Grant. The application is in the amount of $703,902 to conduct the following activities. Street outreach, $10,188. This will be actual case managers going to underserved areas of the county and providing services on the street to homeless individuals. $200,000 for emergency shelter operations at the James Wilson Safe Harbor. $412,760 for a rapid rehousing program. This is very similar to the program that's currently operating in the county, administered by the Redevelopment Authority. $54,000 for homelessness prevention. This is primarily rent and utility arrearages to prevent people from losing their housing and ending up on the street. And $25,442 for administrative costs. And I'd be happy to take any questions or comments on this proposed application.
Anybody have any questions? Any comments? Any public comment on this? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing, and we're scheduled to consider this on Monday.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, could I respectfully request that we dispense with the same pledge of allegiance again and get right into the meeting with apology? Okay, we call the meeting to order and ask, is there any public comment? Hearing none, let's move on to Commissioner Hertzler for an item with request for a letter of support for Silver Spring Township. Grant application to the Department of County Economic Development's Greenways and Trails Recreation Program for stabilization of the Houston Mill in Willow.
Thank you. Essentially, what this is and we had received some notice from Silver Spring Township about the fact that they were applying for a $250,000 grant from the Department of Community and Economic Development. Since we received that notification, I had an opportunity to speak to the chairman of the Board of Supervisors in Silver Spring Township, and he would deeply appreciate it on behalf of their board if we did send a letter of support for this grant. This is to rehabilitate the Huston Mill, an old grist mill dating to the 1700s, which is located in Willow Mill Park, which is an 18-acre park in Silver Spring Township, and one time was an amusement park. But in any event, I would just like to make a motion that we send a letter of support for Silver Spring Township grant application to the Department of Community and Economic Development's Greenways, Trails, and Recreation Program for stabilization and preservation and restoration of the Huston Mill in Willow Mill Park.
I'll second it, but I'd like to know, is there a reason action is required today when we have other letters to the...
The only reason and I have no problem if you want to delay this until Monday here, the only reason being is that we had received notice, and I thought that, this is something that we perhaps consider today. I don't believe there's any problem waiting until Monday. It's just that their application was in at the end of June. So I thought that the sooner we can get our letter of support in, I think it would be most helpful.
So the deadline is already passed for
the submission of the application.
And then they accept letters of support. Oh, okay. All right. I have no problem with taking action on it today. Commissioner Cross doesn't.
Yeah,
I seconded it, so we'll get
okay. All right, so there's a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Motion's adopted. Okay, Kirk Stoner. Kirk.
We have item number 4, request for letter of support from Hamlin Township for grant funding to the multimodal transportation fund to support transportation improvement along a portion of Carlisle Pike in Hamlin Township. Is Kirk here?
He's still on a plan.
Okay.
That's where I just came from. It's still going on.
application also to the DCED multimodal fund for our B Street project. And with that funded, that project will allow us to get B Street through both redevelopment projects. $1.8 million request with a $700,000 grant.
Any questions for Deborah?
The timing will be on that again.
Monday is the
Monday's
deadline.
fine.
Sure, Monday was okay then?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Deborah. Mr. Stoner, welcome. We skipped 4, awaiting your arrival. You have arrived. So let's do the request for a letter of support for Cumberland Township for the multimodal transportation fund. Support transportation improvements along Carlisle.
Thanks, Larry. Commissioners, we received a request from Hampton Township. They're applying for PennDOT's multimodal transportation fund. One of the requirements is a letter of consistency with county comprehensive plan, which I believe I've provided to you. The project, they're looking at several projects along the Carlisle Pike between 581 and Sporting Pool Road, all of which, if you've ever driven through there, realize that congestion, I think, would be very well appreciated. One of the other issues, though, is I received correspondence from the township here requesting support from the county on the project. So I wanted to provide the consistency part, which is what we do, the support part, then, from the commissioners comes from you. So wanted to put that forward to you, request. I know Keith Matz had talked to me, he wasn't going to be here today, but wanted to bring the request forward. In my opinion, on the multimodal funds, if we have projects that are consistent with our county plan efforts, it makes sense to support them so that if we can get additional funding to the state to make those projects happen.
Any questions?
Well, it sounds good. Just clarification for a while and Andy's request. This is for this, the second round of multimodal, because there was an initial round.
Any further questions? Thank you. Item number 6, Kate Mullenweg, discussion of resolution authorizing submission of the 2015 emergency solutions manual.
We would just request that the commissioners adopt a resolution Monday authorizing the submission of the ESG application discussed in the public hearing in the amount of $703,902.
Questions? Comments? Thank you. On to item 7, contracts and grants.
Thank you, Larry. Morning, everyone. We'll begin this morning with Lisa Ryder discussing 19 agreements for the Children and Youth Services. Lisa?
We're here to ask for approval of 19 contracts, 5 of which are for fiscal year 15 and 16. None of them have increases in their premiums, and the remainder 14 of them are amendments to extend the 14-15 per diems into the 15-16 year until the legislation passes the state's contracting process, and then at which time we'll negotiate rates for the 15-16 year.
Any questions for Lisa? Thank you, Lisa. Next, I'd like to call on John Galko to discuss the agreements between CMRC and Companion Alert Pharmacy Services, Inc. and Michael Wallace, John.
Commissioners, would like to have an addendum on the contract for Alert Pharmacies during Transitions Open House. Alert Pharmacy volunteered that they'd like to provide some advertising for the transitions and for Claremont, and they suggested that we put in some type of a film, TV in there for pharmacies. And so this addendum provides for us to be able to do that for the duration of the contract.
John, can you discuss this with our solicitor?
Yes.
And can you sort of explain the thought process, or Jennifer, maybe Jennifer?
Pardon me,
The thought process, why we're doing this, why this is necessary for yourself or Jennifer?
well, it allows us to market the transitions and the facility throughout the county. So it's one more vehicle for us to do that.
Fine.
All right. The next one is Dr. Michael Gaulis, who's an attending physician at Claremont, and this is a new contract for him that makes his contract consistent with the other contracts that we have for the providers in the facility. There's no payment involved, no major differences in the contract, except it allows us to provide consistency between the contracts. It also provides for coverage for the home on an on-call basis.
Any questions for John? Thank you, John.
All right. Sure.
Next, I'd like to call on Michelle Cyber to discuss the acceptance of the sub-grant award from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Human Considerations of Juvenile Offenders.
PCCD approved our grant application for the VOJO grant, and I just need someone to sign as a sub-grantee. Sandy, did you have the letter? Yes. Or do you? Okay. It can be signed Monday. I have 6 days to get it.
Just well, we have a letter from Darren Myers. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes. It's just accepting,
Just accepting the
yeah,
grant.
accepting the money as a sub-grantee, all the conditions.
District Attorney Freed, and I think he talked to us about this previously. The VOJO, is this the VOJO?
It is a VOJO grant. I don't know if you did or not. It's a year and a half this time. Usually we get them in 6-month increments, but this time we have a year and a half, which is good. I don't have to come back to you. On this grant.
And just wait until Monday to...
No, it can, yes, but if you could sign it, and I think it only needs one signature.
Well, that's fine, but it should be authorized by the board, I think, anyway, the acceptance here. So,
Yeah, but Monday's fine.
we have a regular meeting on Monday, with the approved compliment with that again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Michelle. Next, I'd like to call on Jack Carroll to discuss a 2015-16 inpatient agreement with Bowling Green and Brandy Wine, 2015-16 prevention agreement with Carrying Services, and an agreement with Clearbrook Inc. Jack?
Morning, Commissioners. We have some additional provider contracts for the new fiscal year 15-16 for your consideration. The inpatient contracts are Bowling Green and Clearbrook. They both operate non-hospital drug and alcohol inpatient services. If you recall, the rates for these services are established using a statewide rate setting process. As a result of that process, some of the rates for Bowling Green are increasing. 2 of them are increasing by 5%, the per diem rate. The other 3 rates are flat funded. And with Clearbrook, the rate for rehab is increasing by 4%, the rate for non-hospital detox by 5%. Despite these increases, there will be no effect on the county's general fund. With the prevention contract, that is with Perry Human Services, and that is to provide a range of prevention and intervention services to Perry County residents, and that contract will be flat funded. It will be in the same amount as we contracted with them for 14-15, $106,190.
Any questions for Jack?
No, thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Jack. Next, Sylvia will discuss the early intervention agreement between NHIDD and Jennifer Snyder and AP for fiscal year 2014-15.
Hi, this is a grant for a early innovation provider. A request for increase for an early innovation provider. We provided services over contract for last fiscal year when, as you recall, we did request a rebudget from the state and we did receive those funds, so we do have those funds available. And it's a $2,000 increase over contract amount. So the contract will now be for $18,225 instead of $16,225 for physical therapy services for birth to 3.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sylvia. Next, Kirk Steiner is here to discuss the agreement between planning and East Pennsboro Township Land Partnership Grant. Kirk?
Sure, Commissioners, this is a $13,325 grant for East Pennsboro Township for baseball fields at Adams Rickey Park. This was a 2014 land partnerships grant that was approved by the board last fall.
Thank you, Kirk.
And you said baseball, not softball.
That's correct.
Thank you, Kirk.
We've got a lot of stuff. Thanks for basically.
Next, I'd like to call on Earl Wright to discuss the agreement between the prison and Prime Care Medical Inc.
Good morning. This agreement would allow our mental health case manager to have access to Core EMR, which is the inmate electronic medical records files, which was developed and managed by Prime Care. We need this access to maintain continuity of care, for the inmate population. There are no ones involved.
This is a contract or?
It's just an addendum to our contract with Prime Care to allow her access to that database.
Has the solicitor's office had a chance to?
I did review it late last week, and I find no problems with it. I think it's a standard type of agreement that will assist the prison staff to continue to provide services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Earl. Next, I'd like to call on Bob Shiley to discuss the following agenda items: the 2015 State Homeland Security Grant Program Agreement, the Annual Hazardous Material Emergency Response Preparedness Report, Phone Recovery Services LLC, and Dilworth Paxson LL Engagement Letter. Bob?
Thank you. The State Homeland Security Grant Program, that is the continuation of the annual grant and money we receive that comes through the South Central Task Force with Homeland Security funding from the state. This year, through PEMA audits, they wanted to do signature pages from each of the 8 South Central counties, which would require your action and signature. The procedures will stay the same. Dauphin County remains the fiduciary county for all the actual business as far as the South Central Task Force, but they did want to have our EIN number, signature, and bank routing information on file. I think some of it is also a prep for, much like the signal agency audits that they've done for the equipment the county does receive, as well as prepare for future e-grant through the state that they could do electronic transfers instead of checks and things like that for procurements. Any questions on that?
This is in relation to the letter we got from Rick Flynn. Is that the State Homeland Security Grant Program?
Yes,
grant
yes.
agreement?
Yes.
Okay. I just reading through the letter from Pete on this. So.
I believe that's, yes.
All right, thanks. Thank you.
And then the next one is the annual hazardous materials emergency response report. We need to do an annual report to review our hazardous materials program, and that is a requirement to the state. It basically outlines our local emergency planning committee, their activities, the required plan reviews, how many plans we currently have active. The hazardous materials team, they had 5 responses as far as full team responses, as well as many technical assist responses, and then verify all their training and certification. So it's basically just the annual report to summarize the activities of our hazmat program. And then the next 2 are kind of together, the phone recovery services, and you're going to handle this?
So yesterday we had a presentation from these 2 organizations, Phone Recovery Services and Dilworth Paxson LLC. These are the 2 documents that would need to be executed in order for us to pursue research to see if in fact there has been underpayment by the telcos in regard to 911 fees that are supposed to be collected that may not have been. These initial drafts were reviewed by a solicitor. There was one change made to one document. We have received a signed copy of the modified agreement from Dilworth Paxson and should be in receipt of a similarly signed document from Phone Recovery Services. And if we are in agreement that we would like to pursue this, we would sign off and approve that. This doesn't have to have a continuing.
So we're looking for action on that Monday.
We are looking for that for Monday. Yes.
All right. I'm simply going to repeat what I said yesterday. I think a 40% contingency for them, that is their fee. It just seems excessive. I've never seen a contingency fee that high. I know it's more money than, if there's money found, it's more money than we have, but argument being made here is these are monies that should have been paid to us regardless. They don't pay for 911, and it's an outrage they weren't collected, but I think we're pretty close to outrage when we start talking about 40% off the top of anything that's found too. They may be the only game in town, we may not have a choice, but it seems to me we should at least ask for some type of consideration of a less onerous contingency fee, or at least have the opportunity to see if there's any other potential provider who would be pursuing a similar course of action, a similar contract.
Question I would ask is, does the staff have a recommendation relative to this?
The 40% is steep. I think there's a couple of considerations. Number one, as far as we've been able to ascertain, I think we can double check before Monday with our consultant on 911 affairs, that in fact this combination of resources is the game in town, probably the only game in town. Secondly, that there are other counties that have signed on, as we will check with them on the terms of their agreement, but it does appear that they have also accepted a 40% contingency fee, and that we are up against the deadline if we go much past, I don't know if it's August 1st or August 8th, we may lose access to some of the potential funds. So while I would concur that 40% is a healthy bite out of this, I would simply say that if we wait, we lose, and that if there is money to obtain, 60% is better than nothing with 3 rounds.
Yeah, the only comment I would make is that from what I got yesterday from yesterday's commentary from the phone recovery services and the representative Tilburg and Paxson, is that essentially they have the expertise, and they are almost in a proprietary situation with respect to handling this. Now, if there were another entity available to consider this, I would say, okay, 40% is pretty high. On the other hand, as our chief clerk just mentioned, we're up against a deadline because the new law, the 911 law, takes effect on August 1st, which would prevent us, if we wait until after August 1st, as I understand it, from reaching back on collecting from the telephone companies what they should have collected under the law. And I think, as was stated yesterday, it's our individual consumers who now, have been overcharged because of the telephone companies not doing their job with respect to collecting from some of these larger business customers. So I think that we would be foolish if we didn't try to take advantage of recovering these dollars, to help support our 911 operation. I would, sure, if there were other entities out there who were in this business and we had time to consider, that'd be fine. I did, bring this to the attention of our chief clerk about, I think, February. And I know that we were waiting until we saw what happened with 911. So there was some considerations there with respect to moving forward on this, prior to the passage of the law. We know that the telephone companies didn't like certain provisions of the law, and we also know that they, tried to place in the legislation an amnesty provision that would prevent counties from doing what we're considering right now. The fact is that, in a competitive market, which is what we have now because we don't have monopoly telephone companies any longer, there should be a level playing field. Everybody should play by the same rules. So some of our telephone companies, have been doing the right thing and collecting what they should be collecting. Other companies, apparently have not, and that's what this review and this effort, is all about. One of the things I asked yesterday was, does this involve punitive damages? And it doesn't. This just involves trying to recover, the fees that the telephone companies should have been collecting to begin with. So Dauphin County has gone along with this. Berks County has gone along with this. Lancaster County, I understand, is on the verge of considering this. And, I think that, we would be foolish not to move forward with this and to try to recover for our citizens what we can, because the annual loss, as was stated, to Cumberland County is about $1.6 million wasn't collected. That's more than 50% of the general fund subsidy for a 911 center right now. The telcos will make their arguments as to why they didn't collect if this ever, ends up, before a judge. But us taking action hopefully on Monday, we'll be in a position to, have this filed, in court prior to August 1 on behalf of the citizens of Cumberland County. If we delay beyond that, our recovery of these fees that were owed to the county will not likely occur. So,
Well, that's
certainly supported.
That's fine, except, and I don't think anybody's disputing the idea that we should pursue the recourse that we have. Nobody's opposed to that. I think maybe we're foolish for not pursuing it, but maybe we're foolish for not asking some additional questions and seeing if we have any other options beyond paying 40% off the top. So I'm simply asking whether we've had a lot of, frankly, discussion, some would say sanctimonious posturing over due diligence in here in the last week or two on some other issues. So rushing through this when, frankly, we've just found out about this 40%, I'm asking some legitimate questions, and I'm just asking for us to have enough time. The only thing that we lose, as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, we all understand August 1st is the beginning of the new law. There's a 6-year look-back period in which they can pursue that. If we sign on September 1st, I need to know, is that an option? In which case we forfeit potentially 1 month's worth. We don't know how much that might be. We don't know if that's anything. But it would, we do know that if we rush to this, then we're paying 40% off the top. Which is the better deal? We don't know. We can't know until there's final numbers provided. But here we are rushing into this, and I'm just asking a simple question. Is there, other counties may be paying 40%. And I understand the mentality that says, well, 60% is better than nothing. But that hasn't been the way we've done business here, at least in recent years. We found a better way, we pursued a better way, and we don't necessarily follow the lead of other counties, and we're better for it, in my opinion. So I'm simply asking if we can gather some information, and I would like to know specifically, if we don't sign in time for August 1, do we have the option of still signing on to this and simply forfeiting the 1 month, potentially, of the look-back period? Would we still have a 6-year look-back period, but it would simply not include that August month from 6 years ago?
So I think the commitment that we made was that we would verify with the other counties that the rate that they're being charged by Monday, before Monday. Secondly, we would check with our 911 consultant to see if there are any other options or not. And third, I think potential losses more than a month, we can get to very specific implications. There are certainly other counties that will be coming on board after this if you take what the two gentlemen said yesterday. Clearly, not everybody's going to get on board. There's a lot of interest in this, and not everybody moves particularly quickly.
And that is precisely my question. What exactly are we forfeiting? Is it the month?
We can divide that by.
So does the look-back period simply begin based on the date we come onto the contract? I'd like to understand that before I ask to vote for this.
No, that's a good question. I think that does need to be clarified because, so what are the consequences if we delay this beyond August 1st? I was under the impression, and what we were told comment, I think, relative to the fact that this is costing the county 40%. No, it's not. In fact, we're not getting anything right now. So, you know, again, you know, 40% seems high. I think what we were told yesterday was when, you know, these entities operate on a contingency basis with respect to these kind of legal actions, that the you know, general estimate is somewhere in the neighborhood of a third. And, you know, I think what they indicated is you're talking about forensic audits, you're talking about a lot of expense that this law firm and Recovery One is going to have to expend, you know, and they're putting their necks out, you know. So what's the right number? And that's a good question to ask. But in this particular case, I'm not aware of. If you have some other firm in mind or some other entity that specializes in this area, I'd be happy to.
I don't know if there are other firms. That's precisely. I think it's unlikely that there is not, but it also would not preclude us from asking for a different percentage rate. We have done similar audits. I say similar, they're not the same, but we have had other circumstances under which we have hired firms to come in and audit records on a recovery basis, and those percentages have been closer to 15%. And that's happened just within recent years. I understand there's a lot of setup in this. I understand there's the risk involved with that for them. I would take issue with the idea that the county's not losing anything. We have forfeited any dollars that haven't been collected, and any that we end up still not collecting because it's diverted off to this fee is a loss to the county. Those are dollars that are rightfully should come to the county. We should reach an agreement on how much we are willing to pay out from that total. But I think there can be some discussion with them on that.
So we will bring in front of the Board of Commissioners the three items that we discussed.
You know, I have no problem. I understand where Mr. is coming from. You know, my only point is that, you know, in this particular case, again, if we don't move forward in a timely fashion, I think, you know, it's our taxpayers that end up being the losers here. And, you know, again, this firm and this company seem to have the expertise. I'm not aware of any other companies that are involved in this. And, you know, this is, you know, they're involved in a nationwide level on this. You know, so you assume that with the wherewithal and the fact that they're doing this, you know, around the state of Pennsylvania, that in fact their chances of success may be a lot better than some other entity out there who maybe doesn't have the experience and expertise. So
I think there's a consensus that there's three, I don't mean to curtail the discussion here, but I think there's agreement. There is legitimate questions been raised. We will collect the information needed, provide as much information as is readily available. We visit this out later.
okay. Thank you.
We move on to the next one, please.
Next, Melissa will discuss the agreement between the Tax Assessment Tax Claim Bureau and Lee Enterprises Bank, doing business as a Sentinel.
Good morning. We're asking for your consideration for an advertising contract with the Sentinel in the amount of $9,851 for our annual upset tax sale ad. This is roughly about $1,800 less than our previous contract, and all advertising fees will be recouped through tax sale costs on the accounts.
Did you say this is less than previous?
Yeah, our previous one was about 11,000 something.
Was there a difference in contract terms? Or?
No, not difference in contract terms. Basically difference in the amount of the ad, because there were less properties this year.
Okay.
So we take up less space.
Yes.
And it's all recouped in any event.
Oh, yes, definitely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. That's all I have, Larry.
Okay, moving on to item number 8, resolutions. We have Ron Snow with discussion of resolution 2015-18
criminal justice planning and IP programs is increasing revenues and expenses by $1,500 for a grant from PCCD to buy cognitive behavioral therapy workbooks for adult probation. And there is no impact to the general fund.
Any questions for Ron?
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Ron. Call on Kirk now for discussion of resolution number 2015-19 regarding intermunicipal resolution supporting MS4 requirements.
Sure. Commissioners, as you're aware, Planning Department's been working with a number of municipalities on the MS4 issue, municipal separate storm sewer system, which is really stormwater management regulations coming from EPA being administered by DEP. MS4s are municipalities in the urbanized areas defined by the census that own collection and conveyance system for stormwater management. So when you look as it stands now, it's 13 municipalities pretty much west of Carlisle. With the 2010 census, you saw an expansion of the urbanized area. So now it includes parts of Dickinson Township, North Middleton Township, South Middleton Township, and actually the U.S. Army Barracks in Carlisle. So any governmental organizations within that urbanized area that own collection or conveyance systems for stormwater management are going to be subjected to the MS4 permanent requirements of EPA as administered through DEP. That includes Cumberland County. So as you see the expansion of the Census Bureau, the urbanized area, that captures a lot of our facilities on Claremont Road, also captures our facilities in the western part of town there on Rittner Highway down the road. What's happened is the municipalities that are going to be in that urbanized area moving forward and be subjected to the regulation, have been meeting on a regular basis to determine how they can work together to decrease the cost for permitting, share work, recognize economy and scale to meet the regulations. We've been helping out with that effort a little bit. As they've moved forward, they wanted to formalize into a coordinating committee, and they've invited our participation on that board, recognize that we're likely to be a permittee sometime in the future. DEP is telling us that the permits for this round of folks are likely to be due in 2018. So you look then, there's a prep period there, probably 2016, 2017. And if we do something, figure out what our permit requirements are, we'll be prepared for that. These municipalities that are in resolution have invited us to participate with them over the course of the next several months to really evaluate what our requirements may be, how we could work together, how we could save money to efficiently meet our permit requirements in a joint fashion. So what we've seen is North Middleton Township passed this resolution. Again, they've requested our participation in the group since we may be a permittee. I want to bring it forward, present it to you, and answer any questions that you may have.
Can we get a copy of it that spells Cumberland correctly?
Yes.
May not be binding.
That's why it's
It's
a loophole for us here.
It's just got the top parts of it. So you're saying that Cumberland County might have to become an MS4 community?
Yes.
You mean before, because of some of our facilities?
Yeah, we own governmental facilities within the urbanized area, and those facilities have collection and conveyance systems associated with them. So the extent of that, I think, is still unclear. We've talked to DEP and asked them if indeed we are going to be a permittee, and I think the response to them is, initial look, yes, you're likely to be one. Dauphin County is a permittee, so is York County. So we have essentially in the past, we've been on the sidelines helping municipalities out with our resources to help them comply. Now we're going to be in the game. And if we're going to be in the game, I think it makes sense to work with the municipalities that are here to see if we can do it much more cost effective.
So is this a product of our population growth, or is it simply the fact that we've got these types of facilities? And if that's the case, then why is it just happening now?
Both. So when you look at where the permits apply, it applies as the urbanized areas defined by the Census Bureau. So as you see our county grow, that urbanized area grows. It captures other municipal entities then that own the collection and conveyance systems that are under the permit requirements.
So it's like growing out of your old trousers.
Right. It's not that stormwater management isn't important in the other communities in the county. It's just that if you're in one of these communities, then it's regulated and you have a permit that you need to comply with.
So this, let me mention, because I know that the Capital Region Council of Governments is also working in a coordinated fashion on this. Was there any consideration given to, because I think some of these municipalities are in the COG, was there any consideration given to joining in that effort as opposed to creating this separate organization?
It's a good question, Jim. I think the COG's focusing on one element of the permit, which is a pollution reduction plan for the Chesapeake Bay. This would be looking at the entire permit requirements, not just that one element of the pollution reduction plan. All these municipalities were aware of the COG effort, but chose not to participate. I think the COG effort may be down to only a handful of municipalities now. I don't think it received the participation it was expected.
Okay, all right. And the other thing I would just suggest, if we get involved in this, is that before we start coming up with proposals for DEP and EPA, that EPA and DEP tell us precisely what it is they want us to do. Because I've seen this thing, you know where I stand on this. Okay, and we come up with a couple of ideas that we're going to do this, and then that's not good enough. So then they have us go back and do it all over again, and then that's not good enough. They're the ones, they're the regulators. They need to give us the straight scoop on what it is that's required, and then we can go, hopefully, in trying to figure out how to do this with the least cost impact on our taxpayers. And well, I'm not going to get started all over again.
Yep. You're right on. I think part of it, organizing this is really proactive on behalf of the municipalities and us to be working on this, because DEP then is going to have to come back. We're the next round of permittees coming into the program. I think the expectation of the group is exactly what you said, Jim. We need to know what's going to be expected of us, and then through this group we can figure out the most cost-effective way to do it.
Okay. I just don't. I guess my concern is let's not move forward in spending a bunch of money until we get clear guidelines from DEP on what we have to do. And then we need to talk to our legislators and our congressional delegation about how they should fund it, since this is an unfunded mandate. But don't get me started.
Thank you. Any other questions for Kurt? Thank you. Moving on to item number 9, discussion of capital project requests. We have 2 from the Department of Public Safety, Bob Shepard.
Okay, the first one is the prison tower structural modifications. Back when we did the narrow banding project, we had several discussions, and that had got hung up with vendor and vendor eligibility between sole source and actually bidding the project. We've been back through, and it is sole source. I believe it's been reviewed by Solicitor Brenneman, and he's okay with the project as it is with the vendor Stainless LLC, which is the manufacturer and who put the tower in originally, to come back and do those structural modifications that are needed. The total project is $44,819. Questions on that? Second one is the...
No, it's just a point that this is another bureaucratic mandate, right? That's what we're dealing with here.
when we did the tower analysis, it failed the rating for the tower.
Yeah, but I know, but it's based on a change in the regulations, and this is another regulatory mandate. Go ahead.
Second one is
This is an editorial comment.
Thank you. The second one is the emergency services drill tower. We had submitted the project for replacing the exterior sheeting of the tower. That quote is through our county maintenance department. Most of that, about $9,000 of the $15,000, $892.32 total, is for the labor of our in-county maintenance staff. So that actually was reviewed. We talked about the purpose of the site, developed a strategic planning committee for the training ground site, and with the input of the responders, they felt that was a priority to get that repaired so that they continue to use at least the drill tower as needed, and then move forward from there with the planning committee for long-term use.
Okay, and I just dig into that. Here's a quid pro quo. This thing has been sitting out there like a sore thumb for a long time. The quid pro quo from the county was the fire chiefs and fire departments had to step up. And they have, up to this point. I think they've made a demonstration of good faith that they're committed to a long-term solution to make this thing self-sufficient, self-sustaining, and truly valuable and used, which it is not currently. So I think the quid pro quo is what it was. I think the fire departments have done what we've asked them to do up to this point. And I think this is what we asked for in order to feel that our proceeding to pay for these repairs would be appropriate.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is part of the bigger picture, in terms of what we'd like to see happen. And so this would represent, if you will, essentially the county's demonstration that it's interested in preserving the fire training grounds, for the purpose of assisting our volunteers in training into the future. Because otherwise we wouldn't be investing this $15,000. So this is just part of the total discussion we've had, and I'm looking forward to essentially how we can come together with the final plan on how we can make our fire training grounds more usable in the future.
Thanks, Bob. Any other questions? All right, next we have our HR department for item number 10, discussion of county policies. We'll start off with the garage liability, garage keepers insurance policy. Nick?
Yes, like Larry mentioned, this is an insurance policy, not a county policy. With the transition of the transportation department going to Rabbit, our county maintenance mechanics will be repairing, maintaining non-county vehicles, meaning Rabbit. That reason, and also to get the updated inspection license, which we applied for. The county is required to obtain garage liability insurance, which means if we repair a vehicle incorrectly and there's a claim, we have insurance against that. And then the garage keepers is when we have care, custody, and control of a vehicle overnight for maintenance. If anything happens to it, that is covered as well. It's $2,997 a year. I would encourage us to build that back to Rabbit through the fee of the vehicle. Any questions?
No, I don't think so, but the additional coverage is just for those vehicles now that are...
Or any other vehicle that the county would in the future have to repair. Say Rabbit brought up other vehicles beyond what transportation used to own, it would cover those as well. So it's not limited to those 31 buses, but if Rabbit brings vehicles from York or some other vehicle, that would be included as well.
This covers only non-county.
Correct, non-county.
No, I understand that, but the amount of the $29.97 is, I assume, with anticipation of X number of vehicles.
Yeah, basically we started with the 31 that we have, because it's my understanding we're not looking at any other vehicles, but there's a range in there. I would say if we got started doing 100 other vehicles, then we'd have to go back and advise a carrier.
What I'm trying to get at is we're not getting in the business of inspection and maintenance of
Correct.
non-county vehicles, just those vehicles that are now owned by Rapid Transit.
These are Rabbit, yes.
And I think we've adopted policies in terms of signage, in terms of rates to be charged to make it not necessarily a magnet for people to rush to.
That's a John Law issue.
Thanks, Nick. Next, I'd like to call on Holly Sherman to talk about county-owned parking assignment policy.
Good morning. This is just a revision of our current policy that removes in the past, HR has assigned parking spaces to county employees. We're now assigning them to departments, and then it falls on the department head to assign those spaces to employees within their department. And we're talking about the parking lots behind the old prison and under the Human Services building. And then the other change is that instead of Human Resources being responsible for parking discrepancies, they'll now come to the Facilities Management Department.
And Holly, you felt that this was a smarter way to handle it?
Yes.
More decentralized?
Yes, Facilities Management has people actually out amongst in the parking areas, whereas HR doesn't. So it'll be requiring us to leave our office. But then as far as the assignment of the spaces, we feel that it makes it more sense for the department head to be assigned those rather than HR taking that responsibility.
Questions? Comments? Thank you, Holly. budget priorities. Wendy?
Yes, good morning. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about something we noticed in the state budget that went to Governor Wolf that was then vetoed. So we still have time on this. But basically, there was a cut to the children and youth line due to the fact that there are almost always in my memory, Act 148 dollars left over at the end of a fiscal year. And that's the funding pot that they use to make counties whole after reconciliation of the fourth quarter, so that agencies who underspend in that particular year kind of contribute to that pot. And if you're overspent in that year, you're made whole and it all balances out. And I understand from some documentation we've looked at that that's just actually a sizable pot and may at some point need to be rebalanced. They're calling it rebalancing. But this isn't the year to do it. We're facing huge increases from the new laws. Looking January of this year through June of this year, we are almost 40% over the same time period last year. And other counties are similar, some are more, some are less. So this isn't the year to be doing rebalancing on this. They need to take the time to see what the impact of the new law does over a few years. And then it probably would make fiscal sense to get it a little more streamlined. So what I'm suggesting basically, and I'm willing to draft a letter if you like, but as a letter under your signatures to our legislators to bring their attention to how the cost of all the new legislation was terribly underestimated. And that this isn't the time to play with what might be there to help all of the counties.
So this was the budget that the legislature approved and sent to the governor.
And he would veto it, yes.
But they essentially, that budget approved by the legislature was the one that borrowed,
Yes.
Peter to pay Paul here. Which is,
Right.
okay. I would certainly be supportive of you drafting a letter. We get it off to our legislators as they hopefully try to do the right thing and pass a responsible budget.
Okay.
This is something that CCAP has endorsed.
CCAP is also endorsing and working on it. I'm not sure exactly when it was noticed because there was no warning that I heard of this before, and luckily it was vetoed before it was put into effect.
So do we know if other counties are tabulating the exact costs and putting those in front of their legislators, or is this just
It's
something?
very difficult to tabulate exact costs. We can tabulate our expenditures as compared to the last year, and that's probably a good thing to go into the letter. But our reimbursement formulas are so complex that until that fourth quarter is really in and you fully work with it, projections are only projections.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind drafting a letter, and then we could consider action on it on Monday, and then if we would consider approving it, I would suggest that we also send a copy to CCAP. So that they're well aware of our concern. But my guess is there's probably a lot of other counties that are.
Absolutely. As well as other counties. Concerned about the fact that we don't have a budget yet, and yet bills still need to be paid. Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
And I would just like to point out that I have a very small wager going with Terry Farley as to when that budget might eventually be passed.
How can I get in on that?
Yes, you can. It's not too late. And I think Vegas is, the line shifts a little bit every day, and they're not
Absolutely.
talking it over and over here. Thank you, Wendy. And now if we can cue up the music, Bridge Over Troubled Water. We have two bridge-related items from Kirk, number 12, report of bid opening for the Bernheisen Bridge superstructure replacement project.
Sure, Commissioners, we opened bids yesterday for the Bernheisen Bridge superstructure replacement. My superstructure is replacing the beams, the deck, and then the barrier on the bridge. And that project is located in Middlesex Township. We have 4 bidders. The low bidder was Lobar Site Development Corporation from Dillsburg at a cost of $1,352,734. And HRG has reviewed the bids and would recommend awarding that bid to Lobar. Project would start in October, likely be completed by January. Questions on that one?
Kirk, this is a little bit behind when we were told that we were going to get.
Yeah, with permitting issues, on permitting and threatened endangered species, we had to work with the National Park Service to get a permit. And then there's some threatened endangered species, which we didn't believe were there, and lo and behold, one of the petunias was in bloom when we went out to look at. So,
This was the mussels, or was it?
mussels are there too, yeah, there's a lot of interesting fauna.
Well, at least with this, we're, hopefully in a position where we can maybe soon see the light at the end of the tunnel. So,
Sure, yeah, I mean, again, this is all part of our bridge capital improvement program, so it's no secret that it's out there. Now we're seeing results of, this project will largely be funded by our $5 fee. Without that fee, this project's not happening.
thank you.
All right, Kirk, let's move on to item number 3, discussion of proposed historic mitigation plan for Wolf Bridge.
Sure, one of our other bridge projects, Wolf Bridge, also in Middlesex Township, as you're aware, is a historic truss bridge. We've been working on this for a while. We got past the feasibility study as part of this project. Feasibility study looks at the opportunity to rehabilitate the bridge versus replace it. We did receive concurrence from PennDOT and FHWA and Pennsylvania Historic Museum Commission that we can't rehab the bridge, so a replacement is in order. So now we're going to replace the bridge. We recognize that there's going to be an impact then to the historic resource, which is the bridge, as we're likely going to tear it down. So we have to develop a historic mitigation plan for that bridge. So we met with PennDOT and PHMC and some other stakeholders 2 weeks ago to discuss a mitigation plan. And what I wanted to cover today was the proposed mitigation plan that we had talked to those folks about. So the first element of this plan would be moving the Hertzlow Bridge, which is in West Pennsboro, Lower Frankfort Township. Right now, we have that as a replacement project in our capital improvement program. We recommend is take that off that replacement project, move it into our preservation category on our capital bridge improvement program, and do a rehabilitation on that bridge. And then letter B there, that preservation program will be completed within 7 years of the demolition of Wolf Bridge. And we have these projects in our capital improvement program, so it's not going to take 6 to 7 years to do it, but it's just giving us leeway there to look at other competing priorities. As we move that over and we look at that preservation project and the rehabilitation, FHWA would dedicate money from the Wolf Bridge replacement project to help us do some of that work on the Hertzlow Bridge project. And then we'd also execute a 25-year maintenance agreement for Cumberland County for that bridge to make sure that we're continuing to maintain it in good order as we move ahead. We continue marketing the bridge through final design. If there's other stakeholders out of the region or even locally that would like to buy, own, or maintain the bridge, we'd be willing to work with them on that. And then the final piece was something that came up during our discussion. If there's any local institutions, high schools, colleges that are interested in the bridge design, or as we dismantle it, they'd be given the opportunity to kind of come in and study, not to the delay of the project, but to come in and take a look at what's going on before we would demolish the bridge.
So there's still an opportunity for somebody to acquire the Wolf Bridge if they want.
That's correct.
Okay.
This mitigation plan, you'll notice, is pretty consistent with what we did on Craighead Bridge. On Craighead Bridge, we agreed we're going to do some rehab on Green Lane Farms and Bridge in Lower Allen Township. Same thing here. We're looking at another bridge and making a commitment to preserving it. I think moving this from the replacement project to the rehabilitation project makes sense. It's a low volume road. We look at the cost of replacement, if we refine some, that's pretty high. We believe that long term, if we rehab the bridge, we can get some extended lifespan out of the bridge at a reduced cost.
Again, named long before I arrived on the scene, and no relation.
Yeah.
It just keeps coming up.
But I'm glad that we're going to rehab the Hertzlow Bridge, the historic structure.
I did want to introduce Mark Adams, the property owner out at the Hertzlow Bridge, and he's been very informative as we've gone through the process, met with him, and really give us a good history on it, and really stay in context. Mark, I don't know if you wanted to address the board at all, or?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I wanted to thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kirk. Let's move on to Commissioner Liaison reports, Commissioner Hertzler.
Thank you. So Tuesday evening, July 7th, I attended the legislative session of Harrisburg City Council, and following the presentation from PennDOT Deputy Secretary Toby Faber on the subject of transit system regionalization, I addressed the council and the mayor to extend a hand of cooperation toward the goal of both saving taxpayer costs and improving transit services for our respective constituents on both sides of the river and throughout the capital region. I was joined by Mike Clapsaddle, one of our county's 2 representatives on the Capital Area Transit Authority Board, and I made a pitch that if we can save as much as $2.4 million through the single transit authority model by eliminating redundant and costly administrative overhead, that this can be a win-win-win for all of us. A win in saving public transit costs for our taxpayers, a win in stabilizing fare for transit riders, and a win for improved transit service throughout the area. I suggested that while we all understand that our primary responsibility is to the people who elected us in our respective jurisdictions, we would be doing our respective constituents a disservice if we did not work to break down the silos and be willing to embrace change if it means a better transit service for all of our people. And I left with a respectful plea to the members of council for everybody to hopefully keep an open mind, and that none of us should be satisfied with a defense of the mediocrity of the status quo. I shared with the council a copy of the letter that this board sent to PennDOT indicating our strong interest in further exploration of the single transit authority model, which according to the PennDOT study represents the best bet for the biggest savings and transit system improvements. I've also personally invited the mayor of Harrisburg, Mayor Pappenfuss, and all of the Harrisburg City Council members next Wednesday's session at Fort Hunter on the topic of transit regionalization. And by the way, I wanted to ask, are we planning to advertise that sunshine now? Okay, because hopefully all three of us will be able to be at that meeting. Okay, the Agricultural Land Preservation Board met last Wednesday, and after significant discussion and report from staff, the board approved the subdivision of the 137-acre preserved farm owned by Mr. Wilbur Wolf in Penn and Dickinson Townships. Based on a thorough staff review, it was determined that the subdivision was consistent with program purpose, will remain economically viable for agriculture, and each tract maintains a minimum of 50% class 1 to 4 soils, which is good quality soil. Mr. Wolf also was on hand, and before the vote, he explained that the whole purpose of the subdivision, which still must be approved by the respective townships, was to keep the farm in agriculture and in the family after he and his wife passed. On other matters, we've got a status report of the farms in the process of being preserved. The Neely Farm, which is one of the last that's participating in the federal program until the disagreement between the state and federal governments can be worked out, has just settled, and our program, as a result, is in line to receive a $130,000 federal fund reimbursement on that easement purchase. And appraisals are now underway on the programs as selected for preservation in the 2015 program. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board met Tuesday afternoon. Through July the 6th, 21 income eligible families were assisted with the county's down payment and closing cost assistance program for first-time home buyers. And since the inception of the program in 1998, a total of 601 families have now been helped with the purchase of their first home. And in fact, the program, which is funded by certain fees on real estate transactions, has now crossed the milestone of providing more than $2 million in down payment and closing cost assistance to help young families starting out secure the American dream of home ownership. That's all I have.
Any questions or comments for Commissioner Herzog? Commissioner Eichelberger?
Okay, just briefly, the library system board meeting is next week. Just a reminder, the July 22 input session as part of our consensus building program, fast approaching. Also, last week I was able to attend the groundbreaking ceremony for the new addition of the Shippensburg Library. That's been a project that's been a long time in the making. We have a state RACP grant on that, and we're very excited about that. And just happy to be on hand with Representative Mark Keller to mark that occasion. Okay, MHIED, we dealt with the contract today. That board meeting, the advisory board meeting is today at noon. Right? Okay. And planning, it just came from the Planning Commission along with Mr. Stoner. And I don't really have anything to report out there other than we had a nice active discussion about the future of our participation with Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. I'm not going to go into details on that, but we talked for a long time about governance changes and accountability standards. And we had a very good give and take on that today. Kirk, anything else out of the meeting?
Actually, one thing I did want to report on that meeting, I think Commissioner Hertz will be interested in. We had 2 meetings over the past 2 weeks with FEMA to look at flood issues in Mount Holly Springs Borough, and then Shippensburg Borough and Shippensburg Township. They're actually considering redoing the flood studies in both of those communities, based upon input that we've had and the locals have had. So I'm really enthusiastic about it because I think we've gotten good response from FEMA now, really recognizing there's some issues, and I think we could see a lot of our residents that may be required to pay flood insurance now as we move ahead. If those studies are indeed flawed, that they may not have to pay flood insurance in the future.
Is that going to create a tsunami of requests for new flood studies potentially?
It may, and the folks at FEMA have been very helpful. I think that they're willing to listen to the communities. If the communities have good evidence, good proof of why they believe the studies are flawed, they're willing to listen. Both of these communities have done an excellent job in making their case.
So that meeting that happened, like, was it 2 months ago?
Yeah.
So they were sincere.
Yes, that was the start of the whole process. They followed up with some of the issues that were there. And, as we have one meeting, dates are set for the next meeting, and requests for information are coming in. So I'm optimistic. I'm really hopeful we can get some of these long-standing issues solved in the county and floodplain area.
Kirk, I just want to clarify that county employees are not permitted to be optimistic only regarding the.
Okay.
Anything else on the planning commission? Okay. Only other item I have is Workforce Investment Board. We have, I mentioned in the past that the EDC is working on forging a closer working relationship with the Workforce Investment Board, and have been meeting with the new WIB director, Kevin Perkey, who's going to be speaking at our meeting next week, that we're meeting for the EDC, come in and talk about opportunities to work together on workforce issues that affect Cumberland County. So we're looking forward to that. They've been very responsive under the new director. We're pleased with that. Kevin's got some great ideas. Only other item I had is also a WIB matter. Just wanted to remind my colleagues that we do have nominations due for the board, the big WIB board, the non-elected part of essentially the business person's part of the board. And we have 3 individuals who are currently appointed there. The Economic Development Corporation has recommended that we reappoint those individuals. I did ask Sandy to check with the WIB office regarding their participation and the length of service, since we've had some discussion regarding other boards, and they reported back to me that the 3 individuals, which are Attorney Jeff Boswell, Businessman Kentucky, and Mr. Matt Cabbage with Howell, have all been excellent participants. I'm quoting here, excellent participants on our board and continue to serve in leadership roles. Our board has conducted a thorough analysis of attendance, level of commitment, leadership, optimum policy-making authority, and they fill critical positions needed under the new Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. So Mr. Boswell has been a member since 2002. Mr. Tucky has been a member since 2002. And Mr. Cabbage was just added in June 2013. Recommendation is for their reappointment. And unless other board members would ask for some other course of action, I'm inclined to nominate them for report.
I think if we're fortunate covered some other situations. You know, it's always good to keep folks on board and actually, you know, demonstrated interest and commitment and dedication to service to this county free of charge. So, you know, I have no problem with the recommendations.
That's all I have.
Any comments or questions from Commissioner Eichelberg? Thank you. Item 15, make a request for an executive session regarding personnel issues. Item 16, is there any other business?
I do have one matter to bring up, Larry. Commissioners, it's regarding the 911 resolution for receipt of funds. It was not on the agenda today. Keith had it, and I did not hear from him whether it was okay to put on here. Plus the fact, as I was reading the CCAP stuff, it said that it requires publication of notice at least once in the newspaper of general circulation in the county, not more than 60 days nor less than 7 days prior to the passage. And that can be either complete as proposed or in summary form, and normally Keith would prepare those publications. And it says the relevant section of Act 12 takes effect August 1st, and the first payments under the act are anticipated this fall. They are suggesting that everyone wait until the effective date of the section, but not delay action much beyond that. So Keith will be back on Monday. I was going to give that to him so that he reviews, so that we can put it on July 30th workshop. And then it will be approved at August 8th workshop if everything is satisfactory.